For a person to be acknowledged to have integrity by other people, they would have to be consistent with their actions based on their values, principles, and ethics. A person's value is their own belief and inner judgment on how a person is supported to act, while principles and rules of conduct we develop for our values. We are going to be discussing a few articles that discuss breaches of code of conduct on three different law enforcement agencies: morality and ethics, what could have been done better.
So this is an article involving CSC officers that were brought to light by a whistleblower. Correctional employees misuse public assets to benefit themselves. They use correctional facilities and supplies for their own personal advantage. According to the report, these employees use CSC fleet vehicles to conduct personal errands that weren't related to CSC business. It also appears that some employees were unwittingly promoted by the wrongdoings of the supervisor, while the inmates serviced the personal vehicles of the CSC personnel. 9 recommendations were approved by the CSC commissioner as it is response to the misuse of funds and the breach of conduct, but nothing specific to the discipline actions will be given to the offenders. The breaches by these employees are as follows: misuse of the public assets to their advantage, employing the use of correctional facilities and the supplies for their own personal use, and using offenders and inmates as working force to further satisfy their own needs. As CSC's employees, they are expected to adhere to the highest legal and ethical standards and to be subject to rules around conduct and discipline. It is considered an infraction under the relationship with offenders if an employee improperly uses his or her title to authority or personal gain or advantage. It also breaches the conflict of interest when employees use the property of the service or anything produced by the offender labor at any time for activities that have not been officially approved.
The infractions by the CSC employees could have been avoided with a simple solution: be a critical thinker. As an employee that adheres to the corrections code of conduct, one must avoid contingency errors while reasoning an argument with other coworkers. As part of the unwitting employees, they could have gathered as much information about the situation and analyzed what is happening in the facilities. Then choose the best course of action based on the needs of the public and inmates. Then evaluate if their actions are morally and ethically right before proceeding. Some employees were probably using this argument to justify their deeds. Recognizing their own faulty mindset from the start would have led to avoiding the breaches that happened altogether.
To further improve the current Code of Conduct of Corrections, the recommendations approved by the CSC commissioners would be a start. Sessions detailing and expectations of a public to correction officers and drill spearheaded by seasonal officers would also be a great help. It will allow new recruits to gain a first-hand experience on how they should conduct themselves and supervise to a better understanding of their officers' integrity.
An example of a breach of the Code of Conduct for private security occurred with the City Hall security in Toronto, Ontario. This incident transpired when a guard had noticed that the mayor seemed very intoxicated as he had problems walking, but he did not file the proper report about the situation in the security reporting system and had only sent an email to his superiors about it. The security guard had also allowed the former mayor to exit through the underground parking lot main entrance to avoid encounters with the media. The director of security had told the staff that the mayor should not be using the entranceway as an exit, but the security guards did not listen. They had also covered one of the security cameras to hide proof of the reportedly intoxicated mayor going to his car. The breach had happened in this article came when the security guard failed to comply with his assigned duties. They were given a specific order not to let the mayor using the front entrance as an exit. The security guard also did not follow the proper procedures of filing a proper report to the security reporting system. You can find these relevant breaches in the Code of Conduct in the Private Security and Investigative Services under Section O Reg 36307 S1. The section states that if the license contravenes or fails to comply to orders, a section of which the security guard had breached. The way a better decision could have been made with the City Hall security in the situation is if the security guards didn't cover for the mayor's poor decisions and did their job properly. If at least one of the security guards spoke up and reported the problem correctly in the security reporting system, the problem would have been taken care of professionally. These security guards should have taken proper measures to carry out orders from their director of security, as this would have avoided the breach of the Code of Conduct.
The improvements that I would suggest for the Code of Conduct of Private Security is to make sure security guards get proper training, especially while working for the City Hall. We would also suggest that security guards should be permitted to wear body cams at all times to eliminate sneaky prohibited activities. These body cams should be monitored after the end of every shift. This could prevent many situations such as this one from reoccurring.
So for policing, 5 officers of the Lethbridge Police Service in Alberta were charged with multiple counts of misconduct. These 5 officers were charged in relation to a group chat that included all of them. Officers were sharing profane, abusive, and insulting memes about both the police chief and the deputy chief of the division. As of now, all 5 officers were charged with misconduct under the Alberta Police Service Act and police service regulations in relation to the meme group incident. 1 officer was found not guilty of discreditable conduct. 2 constables pled guilty to 2 counts of discreditable conduct and 1 count each of insubordination and neglect of duty. They were both demoted within rank by 2 grades for 1 year. All 5 officers were charged with 2 or more counts of police misconduct in Section 5, subsection 1, and 1 count each of discreditable conduct, Section 5, subsection 1E. All 5 officers were charged with multiple counts of police misconduct and discreditable conduct for their actions on sharing the profane and abusive memes. Some of the officers did plead guilty to their charges, but some officers pled not guilty and went to trial for their charges. If the officers could have simply recognized their wrongdoing and shut down the group chat and the memes, then all charges could have been avoided. The officers also could have looked at what they were doing from the point of view of either the police chief or the deputy chief, which could have made them realize their wrongdoing. As leaders, the police chief and the deputy chief have an image to uphold to the public. Undermining their authority through the use of media jeopardizes their status as opinion leaders of the community. If they were not satisfied, they could have been candid about the situation before it escalated.
To improve the Code of Conduct for police services, we suggest more transparency and candor among colleagues. Avoid the use of social media to rebel against their superiors because of their discontent. Instead, be frank about what they've thought of. We also suggest more group exercise to better the communication and sense of collaboration between superiors and officers.
In conclusion, morality and ethics really do play a strong role in the everyday law enforcement field. Law enforcers really do need to learn when to use ethics and morality in the right place, as well as learn how to put our ethics and morality away. Morality and ethics are a normal human nature in thinking and caring about either theirs or someone else's well-being. But ultimately, the justice system really should train law enforcers to know when and where they can use their moralities.